Okay, guys, let's jump in with the Q&A. I'm going to do a little bit of a warm up and have a little bit of play on my hands as well as we go, especially if you want me to demo anything. So if you have any questions, we have one question here sitting waiting to go from the Wood family. I'll be working, so I won't be here live this time, but I was wondering if there's any way to prevent lower back from hurting when I do hamstring stretching drills. So yeah, this is really common. So the low back compensates if your hamstrings are a little bit tight. So a good like assessment is just to see whether you can get 90 degrees. So what I mean by 90 degrees is if you lock the knees backwards, we ideally should be able to get to 90 degrees there with a flat back. See, my low back is not rounding at all. So if we don't have that flexibility, we need to be a little bit careful when we do our hamstring stretching, because what will tend to happen is our hamstrings pull us backwards. And then when we lean down, our low back will try to turn over and it will aggravate our low back instead of stretching the hamstring. So what we can do is we can put ourselves in positions where it concentrates on stretching the hamstring by itself. So if you do something like a foot raised up hamstring stretch, so something like this, where you have your foot here. So now I'm replicating that 90-degree position, but I'm trying to keep my back flat and just focus on stretching there with a flat back. So that's one way of doing it. If you still feel your low back there, the corner of a door or corner of a wall works really well. But you just lay down on the floor. So this will stop your back getting involved when you do your hamstring stretch. So you lay down. This is really good if you have any low back issues, like disc bulges, stuff like that, or if you have a tendency to go towards that position. So ideally here, we should be able to get the back flat, so both butt cheeks are on the floor and my leg is dead straight. If you're too tight there at the moment, you just have to work back here. Make sure this leg is straight through the doorway or on the corner, and then you can literally lay there for 5 minutes. And I would do that before you go to bed at night, a couple of times a day, just to make sure that you open up the hamstring fully so the back doesn't compensate when you go into your hamstring stretches. So just looking further, the body is very, very clever and very good at compensating. Hello from Argentina. How are you doing? Okay, so I'm going to warm up a little bit unless there's any other questions. I was going to do a little bit of arm balance to start with, so just some like single arm balances, but shout out any questions as we go and I'll answer those. Let's have a sip of coffee. So I'm a big fan of using the elevation when we go through the single arm balance work. So everyone can have a little play with the single arm balances. Obviously, one arm handstand is a big jump up for most people. But so when I go into my one arm balances, I'm just going to externally rotate a lot. So I'm going to turn the hand out. So on the edge of the box like that. And then I'm just going to try and position my belly button towards my elbow. So into that position, and then have an open body. If we have a closed body, the elbow tends to sink into our organs. So what we want to do is just try and extend through the shoulders and through the legs. And you can tense the stomach better then, so the elbow doesn't sink into your breakfast. So in that position, and then see how I can extend. So lifting up on that position. And then you can just spend time there and go up onto fingertips and eventually lift the hand up. So from here, extend, go up onto fingertips, try and find balance, and then eventually you can lift the hands up. I've noticed that I overflip when handstand because the leading leg rotates externally. Any exercises for leg control? So overflip. Obviously, you want to have a look at mobility. With anything that's strange that's happening in the handstand, just check that you're not trying to access a position that's very, very challenging for your body mobility-wise, because the body will compensate, and the compensation normally ends up in rotation or you just falling out of the handstand, basically. So you could do things like where you have the wall will police it. So work closer to the wall. I don't know if are you freestanding or I'm assuming that's when you freestand. Because if you go I go close to the wall whenever I do kick-ups and entries to handstands and things, even if I don't touch the wall. So if I'm freestanding, the wall's going to police positions, and that will stop the leg from going up and over too far. So if I go up into handstand here and just be close to the wall, that's going to dictate how far the leg goes over and put some control on it. And it also allows me to mimic the position that I'm trying to get to. So if I'm trying to get to the freestand hold or a split position or straddle or whatever it is, the wall can give me time to find the position and I can pull from it. Practice the position is something that I'm sort of showing the body that it can do it. And then when I try freestand to that position, then I know I can actually achieve it, as opposed to not being able to achieve it. And the wall should answer that. Yeah, so I do that. Try up against the wall, close to the wall, and just see whether you can mimic the position and if the same thing, the same rotation happens. It could also be sequencing. So when you go into the position, if I kick up, there's a different sequencing of body parts or joints opening, muscles activating. So if the sequence is different, like from a jump, you might not get the same thing. So ideally, we should be able to kick, jump, press, use lots of different variations to get into handstand, and then we still have the same finished result, that same home position we're trying to achieve. But you could try, if you're having an issue, try a different entry. Okay, let's continue with the arm balance work. If you guys aren't working shoulder stands, you should be. Shoulder stands are awesome if you want to achieve handstand push-ups, if you want to achieve transitions in and out of handstand, ring strength. There's lots of different variations of exercises that come out of having a good shoulder stand position. So shoulder stands can be done on the edge of a box like this, and elbows, arms into the torso. So I'm holding in that position. So literally just practicing that, to being very close to the edge of the box, close into your body like a frog or a crow position, and then slowly take the head and shoulders down, which creeps the knees off. You can do this on the IKEA steps. You can do it on the P-bars. So exactly the same. These P-bars are great as well. If you don't have any of these, really cheap, and you can move them around in different positions. They're a little bit better than the fixed ones in a lot of ways, because I can externally rotate, I can change the distance between them, but I can get into that shoulder stand position again, so arms into your torso, and I can go up into that position, and then eventually you can straighten. So there's your bottom of your handstand push-up. So you want to make sure that that's nice and comfy. And then we can even play with transitions where we go from that single arm balance that I done a moment ago. So if I go into my shoulder stand here, so my elbows are pushed into my side. If I extend out to the side and push my right elbow in, there, look, there's that elbow lever position that I just practiced on the edge of the box. And I can do that going back in to the shoulder stand, and then out to the other side, and vice versa. So that's a really good way of enter and exit, especially if you can do handstand push-ups and things. So you can come down out of your handstand push-up, exit on either side of the box or whatever you're doing it on. Did I have any shoulder injury, and how do I deal with that? Yeah, so I stupidly thought that I could do some gymnastics as an adult, and went to adult gymnastics class and tried doing backflips, back handsprings, and landed really horribly because I had no extension and messed up this left shoulder. I actually don't know what I've done, but it hurts when I go into certain movements. And that's one of the reasons that my right one-arm handstand is much better than my left one-arm handstand. Now, my movement isn't too bad, internal, external rotation, and I've done lots of stuff to play around with, like hanging and stuff. I probably didn't do what I should have done and go see a physio or get it checked. I just sort of continued. It doesn't hurt me when I'm in straight handstands, but definitely I can't bring it as close in, and it might just be from repetitions as well. But in my one-arm handstand, I can close this much better. I can't close that so much in the position on my left, and it might just be the rep. So I haven't done as much because it hurts sometimes, so I back it off. So If shoulder injuries, obviously you should get checked if you've got any sort of injury, but scapular work, so scapular movement, so the active passive hangs and the scapular push-ups, so this type of thing, making sure that you can get into full protraction, retraction, and go between. That sort of stuff is really good rehab. Active to passive hangs, so hanging from a bar from a passive position and an active position, being able to pull yourself up and down in that position will really help with shoulder positions or rehab from shoulder injuries. But like I say, you should get checked if you think you've got a shoulder injury. Handstands is really good from a postural point of view. Most people's thoracic is too stuck. Mine definitely was and still is a bit stuck. We should ideally be more open for the upper back, which allows a better overhead position. So working that. I'd love to see exercises with the box to enhance handstand execution from beginner to advanced. Yeah, the box is really good, especially that those walk-ins, pike push-up type start position. So I put a video up the other day where you're doing the variations of this. A box or wall works for these. So into that position and then walking there and trying to keep the shoulder or get the shoulder on top of the hands and try and get the hips as best they can on top. And obviously you can change the height of the box, which is going to change the flexibility demand. One of the things you have to watch when doing that type of drill is it feels much more comfortable to look at the box, or if you're doing it against the wall, look at the wall. It's not so good for balance though. So if I'm balancing a handstand, I want to be looking down towards the floor. So I'd spend a lot of the time looking down. It's not as comfortable. Like that feels much easier. But I like to get people to look down towards the floor, because when we go into handstand, especially when you start to go to this type of thing, lifting the leg up and down, and then more advanced positions like from there, and then stepping in to your handstand. Obviously watch the box when you come back down. You could step from that to the wall, so which would be more of a beginner one, but obviously just watch coming down and cracking your shin on there. That's probably the best handstand drill you can do on that, with walking in and out. So from that position, and then walking close to the box and walking back out with a strong shoulder position. So making sure that you're not collapsing at all. The hardest skill that I've tried learning has got to be the one-arm handstand. Interestingly, the one-arm handstand, I think the one-arm handstand is a very hard skill, but it's actually very basic. So, there's lots of slight different things you can do to try and change the way you train it in terms of sets and reps and blocks, techniques. But basically, it's just thousands and thousands and thousands of repetitions of doing one-arm handstand. So there's nothing really technical. And I suppose you could look at all the skills and they would basically be that, unless you've got a body type that's really makes the skill much easier. If you got a very light frame and short legs or something, then a planche is going to be much easier for you than a 6-foot guy who's got big legs. So there's things like that, but basically repetition of the same thing over and over and over again is going to give you the skill. The hardest thing to juggle is because most people want a one-arm handstand and they want handstand push-ups and they want to press and they want to planche and they want a one-arm chin-up. It's really hard to train all of those things. You can do it to start with, but then when you get closer to the pointy end of it, like my one-arm handstand at the moment is definitely not as good as it used to be. Just because I'm not spending as much time on it, because I'm spending more time on the strength work. So it's constantly trying to juggle all those things. So that's probably the hardest thing. The one skill is nearly the easier thing because you can focus on it. But most people get bored and don't consistently train enough, which is the big one. Yeah, if you want to not hit your shins on the box, like obviously you just want to get the setup correct where you're not outside your ability. If you're training outside your ability on these box drills, then that's where it's risky because you're going to more likely to fall and lose position. I don't know if you can see here. It's not the greatest setup. But what I would do is You could go higher. So if I go higher with the box, so obviously there's less range of motion. So if I go into something like this, lift up to the wall, step into the handstand, and then if I step down, keeping the other foot on the wall, then I'm less likely to fall into it. So that way I could go up with a bit more power and go to the wall to get used to it. This way I can come down slower, keep weight towards the wall and reach and touch the box. That's probably the safest way of doing it, or have a spotter that you trust. So someone that if you take the leg up, they can hold this leg, spot you when you're doing your balance work, and then lower you back down to the box again. Or they do boxes that are soft. So the softer boxes, obviously, they're not going to mess your shins up so much. How long did it take you to achieve the Pancake, and how often did you work on it? So Pancake was a nightmare for me. I don't know if you've seen the photos of me when I started. So at 37, I started this style of training. I'm at 46. So 9 years ago, I think it must be 10 years in December. No, it must be 9 years in December. So my Pancake position when I first started would have been, I've got some videos and pictures of it, would have been something like that. So I couldn't go forwards in any way. I couldn't sit in a position, definitely couldn't sit in a resting squat as well. And then it took me about 18 months, I think, to get forehead just to touch. So about 18 months to get forehead to touch. So I haven't warmed up this morning flexibility-wise. I've just done a little bit of wrist prep just then. But this is cold now. I can get chin, maybe if I spent 30 seconds there, I'd get chest and belly button to touch. Now, I don't do that much stretching of it. However, every time I teach a handstand class or coach handstands, I normally are demoing a straddle position, or I'm training press handstands and things like that while I'm visiting the position. So Pancake especially, I would make sure that you're visiting the position on a daily basis. And it might be that you're sitting watching TV with your butt elevated. So like on a cushion or something that actually makes it very comfortable, but you're just spending time in that Pancake position. I would just be doing stuff like that. So playing Xbox, watching TV, playing with the kids, whatever it is. I spend time in your Pancake, and that makes a massive difference. I mean, that's my favorite way of stretching it. Anyhow, I'm doing it with my splits at the moment. I'm trying to get my middle splits better. I'm literally visiting the position on a daily basis. So not smashing with hard flexibility work, because then obviously you have to recover, and it's, that's probably the best way of training it. But realistically, most people don't do it consistently enough week to week to get a result. But if we can visit the positions, then you're going to do it. And most of the mobility gains that I made and are making now is because it's related to a skill. So I know I should have a better back bend. Like my back bend is like a joke, but I've got no skill that I want at the moment that needs the back bend. So I'm not training it. So even though I know I should, I don't train it. So I like matching flexibility or rehab or corrective exercise work to a skill, and then there's the want and the driver to do it. Okay, on that note, how many skills should one focus on at a time? I do regular weights, Cali skill training currently, tuck and handstand push-ups. And even I find it quite tricky. Would like to see your take. Okay, so again, that you just need to basically work out. I'd write a priority order of your skills that you're working on, and also really just sit down and work out if you definitely want those skills. A lot of people will, in this style of training, they think there's certain things they should achieve because that's what everyone else is doing. Just make sure that your goal list is specific to you and what you want to achieve, and then pick out the main ones and try and group them together. You can train a bent arm strength, a straight arm strength, and a balance skill. Like all of you can do that. And I'd recommend you are doing that. So there's only 3 different types of movement. You've got balance, you've got handstand, you've got bent arm, and you've got straight arm. For bent arm and straight arm, I would be doing a push and a pull. So you get some sort of balance there. So if you're training handstand push-ups, you really should be doing some sort of chin up. If you're doing press handstand, you should be doing skin the cat or like a front lever type movement. So trying to have some balance in there. It's very obviously hard to give specific program questions or answer them in any detail because it depends on your level of each of them. Because as you get to the pointier end, when you get to more the advanced skills, it's a bit trickier there because you need to spend more time, say, on planche, like multiple sets and reps if you want to get a good planche, and that's going to take away, where does press handstand training come in and things like that. So it's a similar movement. So that's where it gets a bit trickier in terms of programming. Sorry, guys, I only speak English, so anything outside of that I struggle with. So, yeah. Hey, Paul, in the future live streams, Q&As, would you consider reviewing submitted videos? Yes, I've done that in the past. I just got to work out how to do it in terms of you guys submitting videos. I've done that on a pre-recorded one before and it worked really well. I've done it on twice. I've done a handstand push-up one and a press one. I think that's what I'm going to do is I might have specific Q&As or live sessions on a skill, and then we could do that then. So get you guys to send some videos in and then we could look at them. I could share my screen and then talk about what I'm seeing. And it'd be really good if the people who are sending the videos were live on as well, so we could ask some questions. And potentially we could do one where I bring someone else on live, so the person who wants to, who's working on a certain skill, have them live here as well. So we could share their screen and get them to try certain things, because that's what really works. Is you can make some simple changes and get some quick results just by some technique things. Any good exercise for improving shoulder external rotation, rotator cuff? Yeah, so rotator cuff, obviously you've got your external rotation exercises. So you've got your Cuban rotations, you've got your single arm external rotation. Big fan of those. However, not a big fan of those if the person looks like this. So most of you, all of us, everyone sits like this too much. So our thoracic and our upper back is too rounded. And that's the reason we can't put our hands above our head, or we struggle with rotation. So if I can improve my thoracic extension or my opening my upper back, so my spinal mobility, normally then the shoulder has a better base to rotate on. So if your pec and your lats and your thoracic is all stuck, I wouldn't try and get deep into the shoulder. Because you're gonna get yourself into trouble then with the shoulder position, because you're trying to compensate for a bad position at the shoulder, and the shoulder's not going to be happy. Okay, let's have a look. Any good exercise for improving shoulder external rotation? I agree, consider key. Sweet. Any exercises for L-sit? Straight arms pike press. Right, I've just got a call coming in. Guys, just give me two seconds. How you doing? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll have a look. I'm on a call at the moment, so I'm going to go. But yeah, I'll have a look. Right, thank you. Okay, sorry guys. Let's check this is back. Okay, I'm back. Any exercises for L-sit, straight arms, pike press? Beautiful score, but flexibility limits me a bit. Yeah, so if flexibility, that's a good example where a lot of people will try and go for a skill or a level of skill that their flexibility doesn't allow them to do it. You see it in a straight handstand all the time. So someone will try and kick up to a straight handstand and they'll do everything they can to try and reach up to a straight handstand position, but they literally don't have the flexibility to take their arms above their head. So mobility needs to be key to allow you to get the skill you want. Now, saying that doesn't mean you shouldn't handstand if you can't do it. It just means you should allow your handstand to be slight bananaed if you can't get your hands above your head. So in terms of the L-sit pike press to handstand, I would just do it with slight bend in the legs. Now you need to check your positions. So you need to check, what's your static positions like? So the top and the bottom of the movement. So handstand is obviously the top of the movement. Now I'm limited here where I can't do one because of the height of the ceiling. And I can't do one on the floor, especially cold on the low P bars. So I need to do it on some bars like this when I go into a pike press to handstand. So you could go, okay, what's my L-sit look like? This is obviously much easier. So having a slight bend in the knees is what I go through to start with. Then you could go, okay, what's my handstand look like? There's the other part of the movement is the top, so the handstand. The bottom is the L-sit, and then the transition. So the coming down, you could start to play with like this. So I'm in the top position as best I can get into, so it's like partial range, and then I'm just going to lower down and then try and get back up to that position. So we're working the partial range. Then from there, I could jump up into handstand, lower down to toes to touch, and just allow the body to be a little bit closed in terms of the knees. And that's going to answer you whether you have the strength to do the L-sit press to handstand or whether you need to work on strength or flexibility and things like that. So try and assess each part of the movement. But obviously a full eccentric from handstand down to pike press, as slow as possible, will help to answer that question as well. Cool, guinea pigs are good. I appreciate your feedback. Yeah, Tom, I'm good friends with Tom and Fitness FAQ. Yeah, I've spoken to both those guys quite a bit. Yeah, they put out good content. In terms of like flexibility wise, I'll be working the main movements for handstands, whatever your goal is. So making the upper back, I know I go on about it all the time, but thoracic upper back has made a world of difference to my positions. I can feel it like if I lay on a foam roller or on a yoga block for my upper back, my one arm handstands feel so much easier. It's crazy compared to when I don't do it. So upper back mobility, I would definitely do on a daily basis. Live on the foam roller, really open that up, hang in, quad, hip flexor, and hamstring. So getting that front and back of the pelvis to be happy and as balanced as possible. Forward fold flexibility is a massive one as well that will definitely change, obviously, press handstand and just all your handstand entries because you'll be able to get your hip higher relative to your hands and shoulders. So if my forward fold flexibility is bad, I'm going to struggle to get in. I'm going to look more like this when I'm in a position. But if my flexibility is good, look, I can get up here because this allows me to get my hip up. So having that is going to make a world of difference. And then obviously, when we put all those together into your straight handstand line, you don't want anything pulling you down. And that's because that's going to make your handstands harder. And then if it's harder, you're going to have to put more energy into that, less energy for the balance or the strength or the one arm handstand, whatever you're doing. Yeah, so in terms of, so you have to go, okay, do I want a perfect handstand position or do I want balance? And it's trying to work somewhere in between that. So I would be doing stuff where you need to be realistic to what your balance is like. So if you get to the point where you can kick up to handstand and you can hold for 45, 90 seconds comfortably every time, then you can really work on your positioning and your line drills in the freestanding handstand because you don't fall out of handstand. So if I kick up to handstand, look at the control I have now in my handstand, where if I just kick up to an ugly position like this, but I can hold here for quite a while. And I've got a big balance window and I'm not going to fall down. So from this, I can start to play with my line and my position because my balance is so good that it allows me to play and move around in the position. If as soon as you start to try and work on your line, you fall over, then you need to then go against the wall to do your line drills. So I do the line drills against the wall to make your body as good as possible. You could pull on and off the wall if you have that. You could work very close to the wall if you have that, or you could be on the wall. If you don't have the conditioning yet in the shoulders and stuff, and you start to collapse after 20 or 30 seconds, then most of your line drills should be done on the floor. So there's no demand on that, but you should also be working on your conditioning. And the person who's working on their line up against the wall might be working on their balance drill freestanding. So it's trying to get that balance correct where you get good work on the mobility to get the straight line, and you also get enough time on each element. So you get enough time on the balance work, you get enough time on the line. Okay, guys, we've been going 30 minutes. Is there any other questions of anyone who's on? I'm also going to try and do, I know we had one guy from the UK. I've got a lot of people I know from the UK that has asked for a different time of day, especially for the live classes, just because it's getting late there now. So like Europe, I was going to try and come on at in the evening and do some sort of live class in the evening. Awesome, thank you. It's always it's great to hear that I'm helping you guys with anything. Definitely when I started doing this style of training, there was a lot of videos on YouTube and stuff, like people showing skills, but not necessarily breaking them down and helping. So if I can help in any way, that's great to hear. In terms of submitting videos, I've got to try and work that out. I've got to think how I'm doing it at the moment, because I'm in the process of. I was working full time at my gym. I've stepped away from the gym now, and I'm only there a couple of days a week, so I can spend more time on my online clients. So that's allowed me now to do these live sessions. So I've got more plans on all the live sessions I want to do. I want to kit the garage out so I can get the lighting and the equipment and stuff in here much nicer, so I can do some more live videos like YouTube, but also the Zoom sessions or just my online coaching and different options. So once I start to get, and we've just moved into this house as well, so we just built the house. So we're in the middle of trying to juggle all those things, and then we've got Christmas and the kids and everything. So I'm not sure about submitting videos and things yet. That's another thing that I want to do. I've just got to work out how to do it and how to fit it all in. So I will keep you posted. As soon as I know that I want some videos sent, I will let you know, and we'll just maybe do it through WhatsApp and get the videos in. For a one-arm handstand, what is the best position for the hips? Supposed to be straight. Okay, so with the one-arm handstand, basically we want to have 3 points. I don't know how well you can see this. You can see the lovely tuck pictures I was drawing earlier. Okay, so with the one-arm handstand, we have the pelvis. So the pelvis normally looks like this. And then, no, that's upside down, isn't it? That's terrible. So we have this pelvis position. So if your legs are there like that, and then we have the center of the pelvis and the sacrum there, we want to have that directly on top of the shoulder, directly on top of the hand to create balance. So if we're in like that position, I don't know if that makes sense. So basically we want the center of the pelvis to be on top of the shoulder, on top of the hand, and that creates balance, and we can go into a one-arm handstand. Now, to achieve that, most people will find that they'll have to tilt their pelvis to the side in some way, so it doesn't actually look like that. It will look like that. So your feet will be there, and then you have the center there. So the pelvis will actually tilt. So this is the flag. So moving this leg down towards the shoulder to create that one-arm handstand. The issue is here for most people is we don't have enough flexibility to achieve this. So number one, we don't have the middle splits that makes it much, much easier. We don't have the side bend or the flag. So that doesn't actually happen. So when people try and bring their leg down towards their arm, the hip doesn't go in the right place. It goes in the wrong direction, or the shoulders and the head don't stay here and they go over that direction. So basically the goal is to get the sacrum on top of the shoulder, on top of the hand in the best way you can for your flexibility and your control. So if I try and do a one-arm handstand, hopefully you'll be able to see. So if I go here, so my sacrum or my middle of my pelvis is on top of my head now. If I move my head to my hand, move my feet down, and my shoulder stays on top of my hand, there's a point where my middle of my pelvis goes on top, and that's where I can hold balance there. So you'll notice for me, I don't actually flag my legs that much, if you could see that, because my side bend isn't very good, especially when I'm not warmed up like that. But I can get my center of my hip on top of my shoulder, on top of my hand, which allows me to get weightless and not fall out. If the pelvis goes over the top of the shoulder, you're obviously going to carry on and fall out in that direction. So I hope that answers your question. That's why the one-arm handstand is very specific to the individual in terms of what the position looks like. But most of the time, there's a couple of positions where that goes out the window, but we want to have the sacrum on top of the shoulder, on top of the hand. It's just the legs might all be doing funky stuff. Yeah, I do online coaching. So if you're interested in any coaching, my website is www.paultwyman.com.au, and I have my coaching and stuff options on there. And I do private Zoom sessions as well. So you can train with me in person, online, or you can do a program and just do video critiques, or you can do separate video critiques as well. When you are handstanding, how hard do you need to push the floor away from you? Many people say to keep pushing super hard, but it doesn't look like you push very hard. Yeah, so basically it depends how comfortable that position is for you. When I'm in a two-arm handstand, I can sort of relax through everything, the same as when you're standing on your feet. But imagine when a baby or a toddler is trying to learn how to walk, there's a constant push up to try and keep yourself stacked on top. And it's a constant fight to stay there. It's a bit like that in a two-arm handstand. You just want you don't want the body collapsing down and falling off to one side. So pushing up and pushing the floor away helps you to extend, helps the body stay as one segment, and that allows you to handstand. It's the same as like if I do a heel pull against the wall. So number one drill for learning to freestand. If I'm in this position, if I relax my body here and push through my fingers, nothing happens. But if I make myself nice and tall in one segment and I'm pushing away, now when I push through the fingers, I get a good connection to my feet, which pulls my feet off the wall through my fingers. So that pushing up allows me to get that. So yes, you need to push away. How much you need to push depends on how much control and how much fight you have in that straight line or in that one segment at the moment. In a perfect world, would you flag side bend or keep the spine relatively straight? So for the one-arm handstand, you'll see, especially some of the best people in the world who are doing one-arm handstands and doing amazing, crazy positions in their one-arm handstand. They will have splits, if anything, or over splits. So they'll actually be looking like that, which is definitely not me in that handstand. And then they'll be able to get this leg all the way in here. So they'll have a massive flag. So like that. That's the easiest way to do a one-arm handstand. So have a real deep flag. The harder version is less flag, but most people need to do less flag because they don't have the mobility to do the deep flag. So the people get into trouble all the time by trying to go beyond their flagability. So they can't flag deep enough. They try and flag more. It pushes the shoulder in the wrong direction over there, and it makes it really hard. So yes, deepest flag is the best way to handstand with the deepest middle split, but most people don't have that flexibility to do it. I'm at least 3 years from a one-arm handstand. Yeah, I mean but that's the big thing with the one-arm handstand is the journey. So being realistic about your timelines. You get to a point on two arms where you think I'm very close to a one-arm handstand, and then reality slowly sinks in that you're not. Especially from a point of view of being able to like I just demoed a one-arm handstand without warming up. I can do that on my right side. I can't do it on my left side. My left side needs a lot more warm up, and it's a bit like 50-50. I definitely haven't got to that level on my left, but on my right, I can just do a one-arm handstand whenever I want to. But that's, I've been doing it for like nine years now from the start point. Hey, I'm good, thank you. Can look in slightly forward help when doing handstand push-ups. Yes. Handstand push-ups, most people stack too much. So they basically do a handstand push-up here. So when you handstand push-up, if you watch so I'm going to do a handstand push-up cold. And because of my positioning and technique, it's pretty easy for me. It's not because I'm 100 times stronger than you. It's just because my positioning is much better. So if I go into handstand here, so I've got open shoulders, I'm looking directly down with line of my thumbs. I'm going to take my head and shoulders forwards. And so I'm looking forwards a little bit. But when you come down, notice my forehead touches the floor, not my nose. So when the nose touches the floor, if I do this, it's reaching and it tends to arch my body and I'll get a bit stuck. So it's the forehead that needs to move forward. So your vision, your focal point does go further forwards, but not to a point where it makes you arch and lose your strength in protraction like that. I'm going to be coming down a bit like this. That's strong, not like broken too much. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, the video coaching is a real quick way to that, like sending some video in and just getting me to do a video critique is a real good way of doing it. Because obviously I can give you specific things on where you are with everything and your goals. Okay, guys, we're at 42 minutes. Is there any other questions? I can go to about 45 minutes. Sometimes I hold a handstand, sometimes I can't hold it. What is the reason? So you just have to have a look at your window of balance. It's probably the easiest way to look at. So in the handstand, if I've got a handstand here like this, I have a window of balance. So how far can I go in either direction before I fall down? So because I've been doing handstands for a long time, my window of balance is that big. And basically I fit in there somewhere. So I've got this big room for error. So when I kick or jump into handstand, I don't fall outside that window. I don't fall down. This is like the person who's been, so that's what I've been doing handstands for 9 years. My window of balance is going to be that big. Someone else who's been training handstands for 2 years is going to be that big. And then if you're really struggling to hold a freestanding handstand, your window of balance is probably that big, and you literally don't fit in between. So then as soon as you fall outside those black lines, you fall down. So that's why it's very inconsistent, because you're not going inside those window of balance. So if we, through exercise, through heel pulls, through toe pulls, through other drills, we can make the window now this big, so we can strengthen your handstand window, make it bigger. Now suddenly you have a bigger window of balance. So that's the reason most people fall from a handstand, is because their window of balance is way too small, and then they're trying to like handstand on a knife edge, where we want to make the window of balance bigger. So heel pulls, toe pulls, watch any of my videos for the more beginner type movements against the wall. And that will strengthen your window of balance, and you should be able to hold. But obviously it's individual to what gaps you have. Yeah, so if you're collapsing from the shoulders, then it could be a conditioning thing. So chest wall handstand. So making sure that you can hold for like 60 seconds plus, just to increase that. So the amount of time you're up in the handstand, you just need to be able to get into a chest wall handstand and hold there and hold a conversation for 60 seconds. So if you don't have that, just go to wherever you need, how long you can at the moment. Time it, video from the side, see what your body's doing, see if you can hold that shoulder position. And then also look at the reasons why you might not be able to hold, might not be conditioning, it might be mobility. So when you try and put your arms above your head, if that's as high as you can get, and you can't get there without arching your low back, then it might be a mobility thing. So hanging, thoracic mobility, hip mobility are all ways of starting to increase that and get bigger there. Get that window of balance as big as possible and get the shoulders nice and strong. Okay, guys, I'm gonna finish there. I'll plan to do another one of these maybe on Friday. I'll just go have a look at what I've got going on Friday. I've got a few sessions in, so I'll look where my gaps are. So maybe do a Q&A session, maybe specific on one of the things. If you are interested in coaching, I've got my my website, www.paultwyman.com.au. The link's in the description, actually. And also, if you want to contribute in any way to the garage fit out, I'm gonna fit this out so I can train from here and do some other movements. So I just need a little bit of equipment to do that. So I've got a buy me a coffee link in the description as well if you wanted to contribute to that. Any other questions? I'll answer on the next one. Reach out, say hi, and I'll speak to you soon, guys.